Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Into the Hive Mind. This episode is talking about the Vanguard Onslaught Detachment. We are doing a detachment by detachment series with the new Pariah Nexus and the June 2024 balanced data slate, and basically talking about how NIDS got a substantial power boost and going through each detachment and what a competitive list might look like with these new rules. These are very much rough drafts of lists. They are not tried and tested in the tournament field. We have not had time for that yet, but these are just my thoughts, again, from a competitive mindset in terms of what might be good. We have so far created a Crusher Stampede, a Synaptic Nexus, and a Assimilation Swarm, as well as a overview video of everything that Tyranids have gone. So if you have not watched at least the overview video, I suggest you watch that before returning to this video, as it goes over everything that Tyranids have received with this new balanced data slate, and this video is only talking about the Vanguard Nexus, or Vanguard Onslaught. So with that, let's talk about what Vanguard got, because they did get specific buffs and nerfs with the new balanced data slate. So there were some core rule nerfs that happened to hit the Vanguard Onslaught detachment. Those two nerfs are any stratagem that gives a unit lone op, which the Vanguard Onslaught has, now gives them 18-inch lone op instead of 12. This specifically only applies to if it would give them 12-inch lone op. So the second half of our stratagem, which gives us, if they already have lone op, they get 6-inch lone op, that is unaffected. We still have our 6-inch lone op for models that are already lone op. But for the rest of the army, it is now an 18-inch lone op stratagem. The other nerf was to our enhancement, allowing us to redeploy 3 Vanguard Invader units. After knowing who goes first, the game has changed where there is no ability to do it after the die roll. All redeploys are now done before knowing who goes first, so that is definitely a nerf. That enhancement did go down to 20 points instead of 30, but it's probably not worth it anymore unless you have very specific units that you're planning on throwing into reserve. But alright, what does the Vanguard Onslaught Detachment give us? The entire army gets fallback and charge, which is great, especially for melee, obviously. And then anything with the Vanguard Invader keyword also gets advance and charge. There are a significant number of models that have the Vanguard Invader keyword, including 3 new models thanks to the new balanced data slate update. They just gave all of the Snaky Boys Vanguard Invaders. So that is the Mawloc, the Raveners, and the Trigon. All have newly acquired this Vanguard Invader keyword. So they all have advance and charge in this detachment. Most of the stratagems for this detachment are also keyed to this Vanguard Invader keyword. So we want to be sticking with that as much as possible. The list is pretty long, so I'm just going to summarize what units have Vanguard Invader. It's things with wings, it's sneaky boys like Gene Stealers and Lictors, and it's now snake boys like Mawlocs, Trigons, and Raveners. So the only thing with wings that does not get the Vanguard Invader keyword is the Harridan, which is unfortunate. I would love the Harridan to be able to lone op. That'd be pretty cool. But no, things with wings, not things with fly. So the Neurotyrant and Zoanthropes do not get Vanguard Invader. It is specifically things with wings. So the Flying Hive Tyrant does have the Vanguard Invader keyword, just so you guys have that idea. But yeah, so we're going to build a list mostly centered around things with the Vanguard Invader keyword. And I do think Vanguard is at least in the top 2 detachments alongside Synaptic Nexus. It might be the most powerful one. I think Synaptic Nexus has it slightly beaten, but both are entirely viable for tournament play and have won GTs in the past, and are very capable of doing so again, especially in a strong general's hand. I do think the Vanguard is slightly more difficult to play than the Synaptic Nexus is. So if you are a new player to Tyranids, might want to try a different detachment. This one does not forgive mistakes. It is a very squishy detachment, as the only defensive buff that this detachment has was that lone op strat, which has now been nerfed. So if you get punched, you will just die. Be aware of that. This is kind of an unforgiving detachment, but rewards player skill very well. So if you are very familiar with 40k and the competitive scene, this might be the detachment for you. It's definitely one of my favorites. All right, so let's get into the list. Again, we're working with advance and charge and sneaking around, redeploys, all of this kind of thing. So we want melee. That's what we're going for, and specifically melee with the Vanguard Invader keywords. So we are starting off with a Broodlord. He is attached to 10 Gene Stealers. The Broodlord now has Synapse, which means he's giving these Gene Stealers +1 strength. This is incredible. It makes Gene Stealers actually a shock troop bruiser unit again. They scout 8 and then they move 8 and they have advance and charge in this detachment. So they can just charge turn 1 pretty reliably. So yeah, a Broodlord with 10 Gene Stealers, they hit like a truck now. They absolutely eviscerate any Marines, and with the dev wounds from the Broodlord, they can always have a chance of punching up. I did a practice game with this list, and I charged into Canis Rex with this squad, and they did, I think, 12 wounds to him. So, I mean, obviously that's not killing him, but they did half health to a 500 point model, which is worth their points. So, yeah, they can punch up. They really shine at just absolutely eviscerating any troops, though. And they're fast enough to get there. Next up, we got Deathleaper. Again, Deathleaper goes in any detachment. He's incredible, but also in this detachment, he's a Vanguard Invader, so he has advance and charge, which is incredible. Then we have a Neurotyrant. This is attached to 6 Zoanthropes, as you are now allowed to do. This unit is just also incredible, an actual anti-tank unit that hits on 2s thanks to the Neurotyrant's buff, makes Zoanthropes viable. This unit I would probably put in strategic reserve, and you can turn 1 bring them in with a with one of the stratagems. It allows you to come in as if it was a turn later. So turn 1, you can outflank as long as you don't come in your opponent's deployment zone and shoot your opponent with 6 Zoanthropes that hit on 2s. This is very strong. The other thing is, with this unit, it is a monster unit, but it is also an infantry unit, so they have big guns never tire, but they're also an infantry unit, which means you can pop them back in reserve with another strat from the Vanguard Invasion Fleet, or Vanguard Onslaught Detachment. Basically, it allows you to pick up 2 Vanguard Invader keyword units or 1 infantry unit and return them to reserve. So if you need to redeploy your Zoanthropes, that is a very effective way of doing so. Next up, we have the Swarmlord. This is just, the Swarmlord's really good. He's probably wanting to hide in this detachment. We did not give him Tyrant Guard because of that. He just wants to hide. But where he wants to hide is a ruin that's as close as possible to the center of the table, and he just has a 12-inch aura of +1 command point. And he gives you an extra command point every turn. This is a very CP-intensive detachment. You want to have CP all the time, so his bonus CP in your command phase is really important. And again, that 12-inch aura of +1 CP to the cost of your opponent's stratagems is really big. So you want to have him in the middle of the field where that will be most effective. But he's not engaging unless he can hide while doing so. He's really just a 240-point support piece. Then we have 2 winged Tyranid primes. The important thing of this is they have wings, therefore they have the Vanguard Invader keyword. They join melee warriors and give them the Vanguard Invader keyword. They don't have it on their own. The winged Tyranid prime joining the unit gives it to them, which still works for everything you want. It gives the melee warriors advance and charge and access to all of the stratagems requiring those keywords. These guys are they're your bully units. They will kill basically anything in the game. Minus, I have found out, Keeper of Secrets, they do not kill those. But very little things do. But yes, this is your unit that wants to use the stratagem that gives you +1 to hit and make your opponent take a battle shock check. If they fail, you also get +1 to wound. So this is the unit you want to use that on, because then they will hit on 2s, rerolling 1s. And again, with advance and charge, their range is quite intense. And they've got 36 attacks at twin linked, now strength 6. So anything T10, you're wounding on 5s, rerolling. You average like 31 AP2 wounds to a toughness 10 vehicle now. They blender just about everything. Really strong unit. So 2 of these, 2 winged Tyranid primes joined to 6 melee warriors. Then getting into our other data sheets, you do have a Biovore. Again, this is just to do random actions and stop your opponent from advancing and charging, because you 100% want to be the guy punching first. You do not want your opponent punching you, because you don't have fight on death, you don't have defensive strats, you will just die. So the Biovore is here to help screen out and make sure that you are the fast guy on the field and being able to choose the engagements and punch first. Then we have 3 Lictors. They have advance and charge in this detachment and infiltrate, and if they're by synapse, they're now strength 8 with precision. Lictors are incredible, especially for 55 points. In this detachment, they're insane. So you want to try and get them near synapse if you can to become that strength 8, and then just start sniping out characters, because now they wound most characters on 2s. Then we have 2 Mawlocs. These are the new guys that just got the Vanguard Invader keyword, and Mawlocs benefit the most from it, because now you can spend that stratagem. If you're not bringing your Zoanthropes in turn 1 to outflank and shoot a tank, you want to bring in these Mawlocs. 1 CP, deep strike both Mawlocs turn 1, because the strat allows you to bring in 1 unit or 2 Vanguard Invader units. The Mawlocs are now Vanguard Invaders. You can bring both of them in turn 1, do some mortals, maybe make your opponent take some battle shock checks. And then if your opponent doesn't deal with them, you can put both Mawlocs back into reserve, because again, that other strat is 2 Vanguard Invader units or an infantry unit back in reserve. Put the Mawlocs back in, turn 2, do it again, do it again, do it again, all game long until your opponent deals with these Mawlocs, which are, they're not durable, but they're more durable than the rest of your army in this list, because the rest of your army is super squishy. Mawlocs are at least T10 with 14 wounds. Then we have 2 Neurolictors. Again, Neurolictors are incredible. They go in every detachment, but also in this detachment, they get advance and charge. They're great. You're really, really looking to battle shock your opponent in this detachment, and so having the Neurolictors to give you +1 to wound makes it where you can kill anything, especially these melee warriors hitting a T10 thing that's now wounding on 4s. You kill anything. And then, yeah, the 6 Zoanthropes, which we talked about. That's the list. It's 3 melee beatstick units, so 2 melee warriors and a Gene Stealer unit. 1 shooting unit that can teleport around the table with the Zoanthropes. 2 Mawlocs to basically hit and run everywhere, doing mortals, and then trying to go back underground. A ton of Lictors. You have 2 Neurolictors, 3 regular Lictors, and Deathleaper, all with infiltrate and then advance and charge, and stealth and lone op. And with this detachment, if you really want to save them, you can spend a CP to give them 6-inch lone op. Yeah, these guys are just hit and run, whittle away at the edges of your opponent's army. A Biovore, again, to slow your opponent down, and a bunch of and Swarmlord to, again, give you CP and stop your opponent's CP. So yeah, that is the Vanguard Onslaught detachment. I have played 2 games with this list. I won both of them. It's a really fun list to play. It's really, really good against power armor or orcs or necrons. It still very much can bounce off of demons or knights, which I think are going to become more prevalent again now that they got changes. You will still struggle, especially against T12. You got buffed from 5 to 6. You're still wounding T12 on 6s. So just be aware, the way this army wants to play is you need to pick your targets, you run in fast, you hit your target, and you kill it. And then you try and get out of there with your strats of fall back 6 inches if they get within 9, and then or lone op, so that way they can't punch you back. That's how this unit function or this detachment functions. If you run in and punch something and you don't kill it, you are just dead, because all of your defensive abilities don't work if you're already in combat. So the thing that you're in combat with might kill you, or that just falls back and your opponent shoots you and there's nothing you can do about it. So just keep that in mind. You've got the speed to pick your battles. You need to pick your battles correctly.